Everyone's journey is different. Focus on your own. Now the news in full. Ogun State Teaching Service Commission has inducted 60 principals and 5 zonal secretaries as part of efforts to enhance smooth administration of public secondary schools in the state. At the induction ceremony held at Lishabi Grammar School, Idiaba, Abeokuta, the new inductees were admonished to continue to align with the vision and mission of government to surpass the set precedents of the state in the education sector. Shemilori Amore has the details.
Following the thorough screening, which is in line with the guidelines of Ogun State Teaching Service Commission, 60 principals and zonal secretaries have been inducted. These the state governor Prince Dakwa Abiodun granted to fill the existing vacancies towards boosting qualitative service delivery in school management.
It is very, very pertinent and important that we build on these gains and also improve tremendously on the gains that the government of today has achieved. Running costs of secondary schools were paid promptly, fully paid, so that we can have effective school administration.
If we have governing body, if we have PTA, if we have different sectors in the school, if children are not making progress, then there's no point. We have seen principals that are always very determined to see that standard get better in their schools.
Think of the principals of our secondary schools. I want to implore you that taking that wherever you are is a place where God wants you to be. God has helped you this far. Anywhere you are is a place of experience. And you don't stop getting experience until you die.
Considering the critical roles of principals and zonal secretaries, the new inductees were urged to remain committed to maintaining the legacies of the state in the education sector.
So what are the days when we will have one teacher who will be serving as principal, vice principal, bossa, and so on?
We have seen in words and deeds the commitment of His Excellency to the development of the education sector, and the Commission shall continue to align with its vision in this regard.
In acceptance speech, ANCOF's president, Dr. Ayodele Womiloju, appeals to the inductees to ensure the effective functioning of schools and prevent acts capable of truncating efforts of government in moving education forward.
These tireless efforts leading to a restoration of sanity in the screening, appointment, and induction of principals in the state that will ultimately boost efficient service delivery in our schools.
Speaking on behalf of other inductees, Mrs. Caroline Ogumodede commends the state government for the confidence reposed in them.
Rural areas should be given priority. When they send teachers in particular, when they send teachers to rural area, they should not encourage this idea of changing them to urban centers. Because what I'm saying is that students in the rural area, they really need teachers more than those of them even in the urban center.
High point of the ceremony was the oath taken by the inductees. Shemilori Amore, Ogtv News.
The new cut-off marks for entry into tertiary institutions announced recently by the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board (JAMB) has become a topic of discourse. Stakeholders who spoke with our reporter Kola Woliosho in Abeokuta said the rationale behind the resolution reached by the authorities was another attempt to increase the chances of admission for applicants from educationally disadvantaged states in the country. Details of his report are presented in this package.
Recently, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, announced that students who scored at least 160 in the Unified Tertiary Matriculations Examination, UTME, and a minimum score of 400 are eligible for admission into public universities in the country. The cut-off mark is simply the minimum UTME score that is required of a student before he or she can be admitted into a tertiary institution. This 160 cut-off mark has begun to generate mixed reactions, as some of the stakeholders describe it as uncalled for.
The standard is getting lower every day. When we were in school, when you write a JAMB, if you don't score like 300, 250, you cannot be admitted.
In the last 2-3 decades now, we have had a system of education more than 3 or 4 or 5. So that shows that we don't really know what we want.
Others are of the opinion that JAMB wants to do away with decisions taken by some universities in Nigeria, whereby they will declare publicly 200, for instance, as cut-off mark, but will still consider the candidate of a highly placed personnel who scored lower than the cut-off mark for admission.
JAMB has only given that as just the average condition. The university reserve the right to also do their own, to make their choices. And I think because that, as far as that is concerned, it is not left to the universities to now adopt the style that is so much like. Well, for those that are saying it has brought the standard down in a way, well, the way I see it, the graph has not flattened though, but there can be a drop. I cannot contest that.
According to them, the rationale behind the resolution reached by the academic body was another attempt to take care of those from educationally disadvantaged in the country.
You know, there are some states in this country that, you know, the educational system there is a little bit off the point. And there are some parts of the country that we are highly educated and the competition is here. But what the federal government is trying to do, they just want to balance everything at the expense of others. And it's going to have a very negative effect on the educational system.
It will definitely affect, because I don't know, maybe they are reducing the cutoff mark because of some sections of Nigeria. Maybe, it is maybe, because the level of private institutions that we have in Nigeria, the quality of education being meted out.
The board said the cutoff mark for Polytechnic is 120, while that of colleges of education and other innovative institutions stands at 100.
Still talking education, the global spread of coronavirus pandemic, which forced the federal government, responded with order to close down all schools effective 23rd March 2020 in a bid to contain the spread of the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic, is aimed at saving the students from human transmission. In this report, Peter Falomo takes a look at how the pandemic has been affecting the academic activities and possible way out.
The ravaging coronavirus pandemic has no doubt affected the educational system the world over, leading to a near total global closure of institutions of learning at all levels. Countries across the world, including Nigeria, are returning to the drawing board to develop strategies to rescue the education sector. Nigerians share their opinion on schools lockdown, particularly on the 2019-2020 academic calendar.
The lives of our kids are more important than rushing back to school. We have to make sure we have all the guidelines in place before we reopen our schools. It is very, very important.
We in the educational system, both public and private sector, we just need to educate these children. We cannot just continue to close the school like that. Apart from that, it's affecting the children psychologically.
With the announcements by the federal government postponing year 2020 edition of West African Examination Council, WAEC, and the National Examination Council, NECO, what is the implication for SS3 students?
Prospective writers of WAEC, they are now going to have, it has totally put a stop to their education. Many are not going to further. And those that are ready and willing to further, they need to do extra job, because those that are really fully prepared for the exam, now they have relaxed.
They have to look into a way of how they are going to unravel the mystery of making sure these children have finished and taking their exams as at when necessary, because it's even going to affect their entrance into the tertiary institution.
While considering virtual studies for students at all levels, respondents expressed their position.
The virtual learning and the DigiClass actually has helped a lot. But the downside of that is the fact that there are some families or kids that do not have access to power.
They call on the leadership of the nation to work in synergy with other stakeholders for possible reopening of schools, adding that the longer the students stay out of school, the more the dangers for their academic growth.
Government to reconsider and give us guidelines on which to follow so that every school will be on the safer side.
And for those that have so much children number in a class, they have to reduce it to the minimal number of 20 in a class, of which the government is saying.
They added that the government could further mitigate the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic on education by providing solar-powered educational devices for students in rural communities, such as affordable tablets that could avail them with online studies. Peter Falomo, Ogtv News.
13 more members of the Imo State House of Assembly have tested positive for coronavirus. The spokesman for the State Task Force on COVID-19, Chinedu Iwuala, confirmed this. This brings the total number of lawmakers in the state who are COVID-19 positive to 14. The infected lawmakers have gone into self-isolation, and the State Assembly complex in Owerri has remained shut since the first lawmaker was diagnosed with the virus. This comes 1 week after the state government shut down the assembly for 2 weeks. The chairman of the State Task Force on COVID-19, Professor Maurice Iwo, had confirmed the COVID-19 status of the first infected lawmakers on Tuesday last week while briefing reporters in Owerri, the state capital. The samples of all other lawmakers and their aides were taken to the laboratory for COVID-19 tests, but the results of 13 more members of the assembly came back positive. Following the contraction of coronavirus by the Secretary to the Delta State Government, Chinedu Iwuala, and the Information Commissioner, Charles Aniago, the Ministry of Information Complex, Office of the SSG, Office of the CPS, and others have been shut down. Besides shutting down the offices and complexes headed by both officers, permanent secretaries in the offices and the directors who work closely with them have all been directed to go on self-isolation for a period of 14 days. Also, the office of the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Ulisa Ifeajika, has also been shut down forthwith. The development has created panic among members of the State Executive Council and other individuals in the state, as the two principal officers have been key to the state's fight against COVID-19. No fewer than 350 Nigerians stranded in the United Arab Emirates and Senegal due to the coronavirus pandemic have been evacuated. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, made this known today via Twitter. Onyema said 298 nationals were repatriated from the United Arab Emirates, while 17 citizens were evacuated from Senegal. The minister noted that the evacuees tested negative for the virus and would undergo 14-day self-isolation as well as get tested from the virus again. And still ahead in the news, Nigeria makes case for unity among ECOWAS leaders as a virtual extraordinary meeting holds in Abuja. More news and reports after this break. Welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari has made a case for ECOWAS leaders to bury their differences and commit to the emergence of a credible, unified and strong single currency ECO in the West African region. He, however, expressed concern over the suspicious nations taken so far by the West African Economic Armed Monitoring Union on the issue, warning that progress must therefore be made with caution. The president was speaking at an extraordinary virtual meeting of the Authority of Heads of States and Government of the West African Monitoring Zone. The crucial meeting, which had in attendance the presidents of Ghana, Guinea, Gambia, Sierra Leone and Liberia, was summoned to discuss and consider the implementation of the ECOWAS Monitoring Cooperation Program of the West, referred to as the Single Currency Agenda. And on this, President Muhammadu Buhari said remarkable progress has been made, including the adoption of the exchange rate regime, the name and model of the Common Central Bank, as well as the symbol. He, however, expressed uneasy feeling that Francophone countries under the auspices of the West African Economic and the Monitoring Union now wish to take up the ECO in replacement for the CFA franc ahead of the member states. He noted that already French ministers have approved a bill to reform the CFA franc, and most, if not all, the French-speaking countries of the ECOWAS have passed legislation to that effect in the parliaments.
It is a matter of concern that people with whom we wish to go into a union are taking these major steps without trusting us for discussion. We cannot ridicule ourselves by entering a union to disintegrate potentially no sooner than we enter into it. We need to be clear and unequivocal about our position regarding this process. We must also communicate same to the outside world effectively.
That was President Muhammadu Buhari while addressing others on the single currency for the West African region. As the world celebrates International Widows' Day, wife of Ogun State Governor Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun has assured widows of their rights, stressing that the current administration will continually bring succor to the vulnerable in the state. Correspondent Adebola Oshomoji covered the celebration of the day held in Abeokuta.
Widows' Day is a global awareness day set aside to celebrate and reiterate widows' rights in all ramifications. As part of activities marking this year's edition tagged, "I Am Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Right," wife of Ogun State Governor Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun, in company of the State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Mrs. Fumilayo Ifuakpe, and other government officials associated with widows' representatives from the 4 geopolitical zones of the state. In her remarks, Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun urged them to be courageous and to be self-reliant as the state government prioritizes widows' need and will continue to put in place measures to make life more meaningful for them.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, our office embarks on the distribution of relief items specifically to widows and single mothers within the state. Our aim is to minimize the financial exposure of widows and single mothers and to ensure that they are cared for during the COVID-19 mandatory lockdown.
She also advocated and called for laws to protect discrimination and violence against women.
The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. This should be the ideal approach we all take when we see any member of our society in want, requiring assistance, or being subjected to any form of injustice. Justice for one is justice for all.
Major highlights of the event were provision of relief materials for widows, presented by Mrs. Abiodun, who promised this will be extended to all registered widows in the state. Beneficiaries, in their comment, commended the state government for improving the welfare of the less privileged residents in the state.
It's very, very, very interesting. Say a big thank you to Mommy, the wife to the governor of Ogun State, Mrs. Bamidele Abiodun, for giving us this. May the Lord continue to bless her in Jesus' name.
Adebola Oshomoji, OGTV News.
The people of Molepa, Ashafauke and Fusegboye in Ijebu-Ode have given kudos to the current administration in the state for providing solution to the problem of bad road in their communities. They gave the kudos while speaking with Ogtv News during a visit to the road construction by the state government in the communities. Matthew Shaomi has the details.
Where I'm standing now is the 2.8-kilometer Ashafauke road, which used to be Ashafa Elerukuru in Ijebu-Ode. The importance of this road in the life of the community will be well appreciated when one understands the pain they go through anytime there's a rainfall in this community.
Succor finally coming their way as the people of Molepa, Ashafauke and Fusegboye in Ijebu-Ode eagerly await the completion of the road projects by the current administration in the states. Upon completion of the roads equipped with drainage system and walkways and second asphalt lane, different communities will be connected together with easy access. The people describe their daily experience on the road before the construction as unpalatable, laud the governor for bringing smiles to their faces.
Of course, when the roads are bad, the economic situation of that area will be totally, upside down. So, but that's why I'm only giving thanks to him now, His Excellency, for the job well done.
Formerly, at times, when rain fall, if the rain fall here, now, these residents will experience a lot of hazard. But now, as you can see, the road, if rain fall now, the water will move smoothly.
The engineer on site says the grading course, which will ensure the road meets the targeted standard, will be completed in a matter of days.
And especially before we came to this place, you can see that they were complaining that flood has been affecting them. Whenever rain falls like this, it will affect them and people will be complaining. But right now, there are some people have even been coming to me that, you have done a good job.
Work is going full blast at Ijebu-Ode Epe road construction as asphalt is being laid on some sections of the road. Electricity poles and cables are also being relocated for the full expansion of the road, while residents of the communities on the expressway continue to anticipate the many benefits the road project will bring.
For years back, we've been suffering on this road, especially when you go out. For example, I work at Epe. When I'm coming back each day, I always face hardship.
They praised the efforts of the government at opening up the states. Matthew Shoumi, Ogtv News.
Ogun State government, through the Ministry of Environment, has commenced the dredging and channelization of Adinyo Canal in Ifo local government area towards preventing the perennial flooding in the community. Speaking during the exercise, Commissioner for Environment, Honorable Abiodun Abudu-Balogun, said the state governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, deserved commendation by approving fund for the dredging of the canal, which had wreaked havoc in the community for years. He says aside from the dredging at Adinyo, the state government will also dredge other canals near the axis, urging the residents to reciprocate government's good gesture by desisting from dumping refuse into the canal.
We know the flood challenge around Adinyo axis here, and there has been a lot of public outcries, particularly to Mr. Governor from the community, and Mr. Governor directed that the Minister of Environment should immediately swing into action. And we're here today. You can see that we started work some few days ago. We have started dredging the canal, and once we are done with this, we expect that the flood challenge around this axis won't stop.
Committee for local government, Honorable Fatil Olasalami, thanked the state government for coming to the aid of the people of the community, adding that the council authority will do everything possible to keep the canal free from refuse. Towards ensuring the congestion of the correctional centers as well as speedy dispensation of justice A new magistrate court has been opened at Idioke Igbesa in Adodota local government area of Ogun State. The State Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Musumola Depeolu, at the event reiterated our commitment to reposition justice dispensation in the state. Judiciary correspondent Kunle Ibekunle's report is presented in this package.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, I commission this court hall for the use of good people of Igbesa land to dispense justice without fear or favor.
The Ogun State Chief Judge, Honorable Justice Musumola Depeolu, said the commissioning of the Magistrate Court is part of our administration agenda to continually bring justice closer to the people, just as she welcomed well-spirited Nigerians towards supporting her in this regard. The Chief Judge appreciates the Olu of Idioke Igbesa Oba Said Ifalun Odusoya for donating the Magistrate Court building
for use as a magistrate court in his community. This is all in the spirit of corporate social responsibility and a way of giving back to the society. I therefore humbly request the cooperation of all stakeholders in the administration of justice to ensure that all hands are on deck to sustain this court, particularly the police, who need to give the court an orderly, a prosecutor, and security for the magistrates' quarters.
Justice Depeolu highlights some of the initiatives that has been introduced to decongest the correctional centers in the state and reels out other plans.
The small claims court has come to play a leveling game as it accommodates claims running up to 500,000 naira, which must be heard and judgment entered within 60 days. It is particularly a measure to save time, cost incurred due to prolonged litigation, and is most useful for prompt settlement of monetary claims. We are also on the verge of rolling out the Administration of Criminal Justice Rules 2020, as well as the Family Court Rules and its accompanying practice direction. I humbly crave the indulgence of all stakeholders to key into these developments by exploring these innovations.
In his remarks, the Olu of Idioke Oba Said Odusoya promises more support, just as some indigents of the community equally laud the initiative.
We have 100% insurance for the issue of the security level, because me myself, I believe in security. Before the magistrate court, we don't build the police station. When I do a 2 years probation, I'm through.
High points of the event were signing of handing over documents and facility tour of the court building by Chief Judge and other dignitaries at the event.
The Ogun State Judiciary says it would not be closing for its 2020 court vacation despite the COVID-19 pandemic-induced lockdown in the state. Instead, individual judges will be proceeding on annual vacation as approved by the Honorable Chief Judge of the state. For contemporary punishment to be effective for those accused of juvenile crime, there is need for aftercare programs during and after confinement. This was the submission of respondents while speaking with Ogtv News on the effectiveness of contemporary punishment for juvenile crimes. Elizabeth Esson has the details.
A juvenile crime, also known as delinquency or youth crime, is when a person between the ages of 10 and 16 or 18 years of age, depending on the state where the crimes are committed, commits an illegal act which is considered as criminal act if performed by an adult. Usually, a juvenile is tried as an adult in an adult court system because of the severity of the crime committed, such as murder, robbery with weapon, and rape.
Service, but it's more of a welfare package. So we disoriented them to let them understand that it is for their own best interest. And if they are able to yield to training and correction, they might not spend as much as they should spend around here. So we have our welfare section, we have the counseling section, we have the guidance and counseling section, we have the educational section, we have everything that you can think of an institution.
Effective treatment of juvenile substance abusers often requires a family-based treatment model for those who do, such as juvenile drug courts, community-based supervision, juvenile detention, and community re-entry.
Look at the provision of the Constitution and various decisions of various courts. The issue of those under 18 years, they don't normally consider them criminally liable. Some of the offenses committed by them, they normally send them to booster home to assist them in growing up, to know their rights, their limitations.
But if it were to be capital offense, such a juvenile will be kept in booster home, and until such a juvenile attains the adult age, that is when such capital punishment would be meted out to him.
In most of the correctional facilities, juveniles are taken through various activities ranging from educational to vocational training in order to make them fit back into the society.
At that age when they are coming in, they are still either in school or they are learning trade. So, and if you want to get them back into the society, definitely they have to continue that trend. There shouldn't be any break, because if there is any break, then there won't be any sustainable life after this place. This place shouldn't be a break. It should be another level, a step to actually give them a clearer view of what they could become in life.
Unlike one of the goals of a typical adult criminal case, the purpose of a juvenile sentence, according to respondents, is not to punish but to rehabilitate the juvenile so that they can be productive to the society. Elizabeth Esson, Ogtv News.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, has ordered the Federal Capital Territory Abuja Command of the Nigerian Police to seal off the National Secretariat of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Report has it that the order was necessitated by the need to ensure public order and safety in and around the Secretariat. Some of the staff told newsmen that they were preparing to leave the premises. Members of the party's National Working Committee who showed up at the Secretariat were prevented from gaining access to the party house, while members of staff and journalists were allowed in but without their cars. The order might not be unconnected with the party's leadership confusion, since no fewer than 3 persons have been named in connection with the chairmanship position. Meanwhile, the police have said they did not seal the National Secretariat of the All Progressives Congress in Abuja, contrary to reports in the media. The force made it clear that it deployed its operatives as a proactive measure to maintain peace and ensure there was no breakdown of law and order at the party secretariat. It stated that the party members and the secretariat staff were at liberty to conduct their legitimate businesses as usual. A Rivers State High Court has restrained former Deputy National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress APC, Victor Gadam, from parading himself as a member or officer of the party. Justice C. Nwogu gave the order in a suit filed by Okechukwu Chido Ugbona and Mark Lords Peterson against APC Rivers Chapter, acting chairman of the chapter Igo Aguma, Victor Gadam, and Golden Chioma in Port Harcourt. The court stated, having been suspended by the State Executive Committee, SEC, of APC, Gadam should not participate in the activities of the party pending determination of the substantive case. The judge ruled an order of interim order is hereby made, restraining the third defendant from parading himself as an officer or member or exercising any right or privilege accruable to members. APC Rivers had forwarded Barrister Wogo Bams as replacement to National Working Committee, which swore him in on Monday. The judge adjourned further hearing in the suit to July 9, 2020. The Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, has restrained the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, from participating in the governorship primary election organized by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the state. The court, presided over by Justice E.A. Obile, gave the order in pursuant to a motion ex parte dated June 22nd, filed by one of the PDP governorship aspirants, Omorege Ogbede Ihama. The suit listed the defendants as Prince Uche Secondus, Emmanuel Ogidi, Chief Debekeme Bayelafa, Senator James Manager, Ajibola Muraika, PDP, Godwin Obaseki, and INEC. The police have intercepted a truckload of youth said to be from different parts of the north at the border between Lagos and Ogun states. According to the police, the arrest was made following an intelligence report that the truck laden with tomatoes, which was Lagos bound, was also carrying a large number of young men. The youth, who appeared to be in their 20s and 30s, were ordered to disembark from the truck, as the police said they would be taken to the task force office for further investigation. There had been several cases of security personnel intercepting trucks carrying young men headed for the south, mostly from northern part of the country. As a result of the development, many have raised concerns about the continued violation of the order restricting interstate travel as part of measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. The Nigerian Air Force has deployed 5 additional helicopters to boost its fight against banditry in Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, and Kaduna states. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, disclosed this on Tuesday when he supervised an area demarcated for the construction of taxiway, apron, hangar, and aircraft shelters in Bakuru village in the newly proposed Nav Central Flying School, Katsina State. Abubakar also noted that the jets were deployed at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Airport, Katsina State. The air assets included, among other things, Augusta 109 powered helicopter nav, surveillance aircraft, gunship helicopter, fighter and alpha jets. This brings the total number of the air assets to 10, currently operating in the ongoing operation codenamed Operation Wutan-Daji, a subsidiary of Operation Adarin-Daji, while stating that the force is determined to make it extremely difficult for the bandits to operate in the northwestern region of the country. Abubakar expressed satisfaction with the successes recorded so far in the fight against banditry. According to him, in the last 3 days, close to 100 hours, so many locations of the bandits have been identified, with 10 of their camps cleared. On May 22nd, the Nigerian Air Force deployed additional 60 special forces to complement the efforts of the ongoing Adarin-Daji operation to sweep out bandits and kidnappers terrorizing innocent citizens of Kaduna State. The federal government has said 400,000 applicants will be absorbed into the third batch of its Empower National Social Investment Scheme. Last week, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development announced that it would begin the enrollment of the third batch of Empower beneficiaries on June 26, 2020. The ministry explained that the enrollment will provide opportunities for more Nigerian youth to access the program in furtherance of President Muhammadu Buhari's vision of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. The ministry also stated that the current enrollees of the scheme, Batch A, will exit on June 30, 2020, while Batch B will exit the program on July 31, 2020. The scheme gave further details on the upcoming enrollment via its official Twitter handle at Empower_NG. On business segments of the news, stock market extends decline with investors losing 38 billion naira. Details shortly. Thanks so much for joining us on the business segment of the news. Credits to the economy rose by 10.1% or 3.5 trillion naira in 5 months to 39.1 trillion naira in April 2020 from 35.5 trillion naira in November last year. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, disclosing this in its just released Depository Corporation Survey report, also said that credit to the private sector recorded a significant growth of 8.6% or 28.67 trillion naira in April from 26.4 trillion naira in November 2019. The report also shows credit to the government rose by 14.6% or 1.33 trillion naira during the period. Net domestic assets (NDA) increased by 1.8% to 29.78 trillion naira as against 7.52% decrease in net foreign assets (NFA) to 5.92 trillion naira. Nigeria's foreign reserves dropped by $161 million in 15 days. Data published by Central Bank of Nigeria's website showed that Nigeria's external reserves is now $36.3 billion as at June 18. According to CBN's data, Nigeria's external reserve position as at June 3rd was $36.57 billion. The drop was as a result of the ever-rising demand of Nigerians for importation despite the global lockdown and limited dollar revenue due to stiff Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries (OPEC) cuts and low crude oil prices. The reserves declined for second consecutive week since June 3rd when it stood at $36.577 billion. This represents a decline of $261 million or 0.71% in 15 days compared to the $36.316 billion as of June 18, 2020. The naira has been under pressure against major currencies, particularly the dollar, since the fall in oil prices and the outbreak of COVID-19. Nigeria's oil industry appears to have started a major turnaround, considered long overdue, to reposition it as a major catalyst in the transformation of the country's economy. The process is led by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC). This week announced its audited financial statement, though the second in its recent history. For the first time, it made it public information in line with global best practices. Industry observers believe the development was the way the organization was supposed to have been operating its finances amidst groundswell of allegation of financial malpractices and corruption in the country's public sector. But the current leadership of the corporation had made a commitment at inception to run a different model of public enterprises, one with private sector orientation of accountability and profitability. Being Nigeria's major revenue earner, the new NNPC, under the leadership of its group managing director, Mr. Mele Yari, is taking a number of measures to strengthen its revenue base and attain profitability. Immediately, it was inaugurated as the group managing director of the National Oil Company last year after the retirement of his immediate predecessor, Dr. Maikati Baru, now late. Yari wasted no time in hitting the ground running. The nation's stock market extended its decline on Monday as investors lost 38 billion naira at the end of trading. The market's breadth closed negative as 26 losses emerged, while 11 firms recorded gains. The NSE All Share Index dropped by 0.29% as bargain hunters continued profit-taking. The ASI declined by 72.83 basis points to 24,753.92 basis points on Monday from 24,826 basis points last Friday, while the market capitalization of equities appreciated to 12.91 trillion naira from 12.95 trillion naira. On the activity chart, the premium subsector dominated in volume with 28.71 million shares traded by investors in 1,222 deals. The subsector was enhanced by the activities in the shares of the commercial banks. Investors exchanged a total of 124.68 million shares in 3,843 deals on Monday. And that was the business segment of the news. Up next is foreign news. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that people should remain 2 meters apart where possible, but a 1 meter plus rule will be introduced as restaurants, hotels and hairdressers open from 4th of July in the UK. Details of these and other stories in this package. Restaurants, hotels and hairdressers can open from 4th July in England when social distancing rules will be eased. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said people should remain 2 meters apart where possible, but a 1 meter plus rule will be introduced. 2 households in England will also be able to meet indoors and stay overnight with social distancing.
I can tell the House that we will also reopen restaurants and pubs. All hospitality indoors will be limited to table service, and our guidance will encourage minimal staff and customer contact.
The Prime Minister wanted that all the steps were reversible. From US and Canada, several states have seen a record number of cases in recent days, leading to fears that the country is experiencing a second wave of infections. But Vice President Mike Pence said those fears were overblown and accused the media of using grim predictions to scare the American people. With more than 2 million coronavirus cases, the US has the highest number of confirmed infections in the world, about a quarter of the global total. The number of new cases rarely fell below 20,000, though, because as some states were bringing their outbreaks under control, others were just beginning to see flare-ups. Saudi Arabia has banned international visitors from making the Islamic pilgrimage or Hajj this year in a bid to control coronavirus. Only a very limited number of people currently living in the kingdom may take part. An estimated 2 million people would otherwise have visited Mecca and Medina this summer for the annual gathering. There had been fears the Hajj might be cancelled altogether. In normal times, the pilgrimage is one of the most significant moments in the Muslim religious calendar, but only citizens from countries around the world who are already resident in Saudi Arabia will be allowed to attend this year. The authorities say this is the only way they will be able to make plans for social distancing that will keep people safe. Hundreds of people defied social distancing rules to participate in the Chariot Pulling Festival. Glitch takes all the colorful powder from the Festival of Color in Dhaka, India. Gopa celebrates the Hindu Ratha, Yatra, and Mahara performs the pagan ritual Imbolc, with music and conversation to lift the spirit. 120 million people are expected to take part in the world's biggest gathering, but what exactly is Kumbh Mela? The religious rituals and festivals of Bali. People all over the world are celebrating Holi, the Hindu festival of color, today. People throw colorful paints, powder at each other, and have huge celebrations. Take a look at how some people have been celebrating in India. And that's it on the world today. Next on our 9 Up is sports news. I'll be back shortly. Three Nigerian athletes will benefit from the offered one-time $3,000 grant from the World Athletics and the International Athletics Foundation. The one-time $3,000 grant through an athlete welfare fund was announced in April to help support professional athletes experiencing financial hardship due to the coronavirus pandemic. According to the World Athletics, 261 eligible applications were received by IAF by the May 31 deadline, with only 193 meeting the eligibility criteria under the oversight of an expert working group chaired by World Athletics President Sebastian Coe. 3 Nigerian athletes met the criteria, with 2019 African Games 100 meters champion Raymond Ekowo and bronze medalist being among the successful athletes.